Welcome to Discussions with the Writer Fred, right here at Black Video News in San Antonio, Texas. We are the voice of the Black community. Today I have a special guest with me, Mr. Joe Ibarra. Joe, welcome to
Hello.
Discussion with the Writer Fred.
Thank you for having me.
Joe is the Director of Enrollment for CentroMed, and he's the co-chair of Enroll SA, which is a community coalition. Before we get into our subject, Joe, tell us something about yourself. Tell us something about your two organizations.
Great. Well, me personally, I'm a father of three. I take great pride in that. Three boys.
Oh, you almost have your basketball team.
They're athletes, but basketball is the one sport they're not good at. So they play baseball and football. Great baseball players.
Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, three potentials.
Yes, definitely.
And UTSA also, because we got a great football team.
Oh man, wherever they can get a scholarship, we'll be happy.
I gotcha.
No favorites.
Okay.
I've been involved in public health for 10 years here in San Antonio. I work for CentroMed. CentroMed is a federally qualified health center. So we have nearly 30 sites in the San Antonio area.
30 in San Antonio.
From Southwest Bexar County all the way up to New Braunfels and Comal County. We are charged with serving the underserved. So minority populations, undocumented folks who traditionally don't have access to proper health care. We are the largest pediatric provider in the San Antonio area. We're a medical home for anybody, regardless of whether you have insurance or not. We specialize in women's health. Definitely look to help pregnant moms and help with that maternity mortality rate. And then Enroll SA is a community health coalition. It was founded in 2013 by Judge Wolf and then Mayor Castro. And so this was ahead of the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. So the first time that health insurance was going to be made available to those who didn't qualify for Medicaid or Medicare or get it through their employer. And we had a bunch of organizations citywide who were going to be receiving some sort of funding to help enroll the community. Wasn't nearly enough, but we were getting some. And essentially what happened is we wanted to make sure that we were pooling our resources, not duplicating efforts and having as much of a positive impact in the community as possible. And so we continue that work today. All of our hospital systems are involved, schools, universities, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, all trying to get the word of access to health care to the community.
Do you have a CentroMed here on the east side? What's the closest one?
So on the east side, another one of our federally qualified health centers is CommuniCare. And so
That's part of your coalition?
they're part of our coalition. They're not part of CentroMed. And of course, they have a facility, I think, right across the road here by the AT&T Center. CentroMed, we're located on the south side, southwest side, northeast. We have one of our larger clinics off of Walsham. We have one in Converse, and so.
So if I'm a young pregnant lady, don't have any insurance. I've always wondered about this. How could she get care?
It's a great question. So come to one of our facilities at CentroMed. We have OBs. First thing she's going to do is meet with our eligibility department. And so what our eligibility department does is see if she qualifies for any programs.
What does it take to qualify?
It just varies. So it goes by income, by need. They'll screen someone who comes in, see if they perhaps qualify for the Affordable Care Act. If they don't, do they qualify for pregnancy Medicaid? If they do, we'll help them enroll into it and fill out their applications, get them started, get them seen with a doctor, and make sure she's taken care all the way through.
Okay, let me create probably the worst situation. I'm 17 years old. Don't know where the father is. And I feel sickly. I know I'm pregnant. I don't know where to go. Who do I call?
That's a tough situation. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. We would want her to find one of our clinics. Our phone number for CentroMed is 922-7000. That's where she could start.
922-7000. 210?
210.
210, okay.
Mom can also call 211, and United Way will connect her to CentroMed.
211?
211, even easier.
That's easier.
Connect her to CentroMed, connect her to Communicare, wherever she needs to go. And we want to get her with our OB department, with one of our eligibility specialists to try and make sure that she's covered. The infant mortality rate is super high here in San Antonio.
Yes.
The mortality rate for moms is just, especially among Latino and African American
Absolutely,
communities, is
yeah.
just it's an issue here. So we want to make sure that those moms are getting covered and taken care of.
And I imagine the psychological effect for a young girl who feels she's out there all alone will also affect her pregnancy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of environmental factors that affect stress levels, nutrition, proper vitamins. When you talk about why is the infant mortality rate so high, it's mostly because our community doesn't have the means or the know-how to access proper health care, how to make sure that they're eating properly, they're properly nourished, that they're taking the right vitamins, that a doctor is making sure that she or the baby doesn't have any ailments throughout the pregnancy. So,
right. And the problem is also communication, isn't it? We need more shows that you're on, like this, to reach out to these young girls and let them know you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Yeah,
yes.
you're not alone.
It's not uncommon. I think, especially trying to get into the mind of a teenager. I have a 12-year-old, so he's approaching teenage years. But they think that they're the only ones who have ever gone through this before. And
right.
And so
they
being
discovered
able,
it. Yeah.
yes, nobody else has ever
Done it before.
been in a situation where they're young and pregnant, or they have some sort of situation. So I think definitely communicating that you're not alone, that this is not a bad situation, that you have to be afraid. I think is very important.
And now, where do you all get your money? Fed, state, local?
Yeah, so as a federally qualified health center, we are funded through the federal government, and so
HHS?
through HHS, through HHSC. Here locally, we do have a number of private funders. Funders like Methodist Healthcare Ministries here in San Antonio, who fund various programs. So it's a pretty diverse funding stream, but the majority comes from the feds and that designation as a federally qualified health center.
Okay. Do you have to go through the state, or you go right to the feds?
It's through the feds, but I mean it's all
tied together.
All tied together. So CentroMed, we're going on 50 years of service here in the San Antonio area, and so yeah, it's pretty.
What is it that drives a man like you to do this?
Oh my gosh, a sense of service to our community.
To the community.
This is my community. This is our community, and so just from an early age, in college when I was finishing up, right here in Incarnate Word, I started working here on the east side at Denver Heights Community Center.
Okay.
And did that while I was finishing up school and into my next job, and never forget a young man that I was helping then, and so. It was coming up on my last days there. I was going to move on to work at Southwest ISD. That was my first real job out of college. And he tells me, he says, "Joe, now that you're leaving," he said, "who's going to care about us?" And that's just all, 20 years later, that stuck with me. And I just tried to have a positive impact in our community. And now with kids of my own, I hope that they see that and they want to do the same, be productive citizens.
That's great. Okay,
Yes, sir.
we're going to get to our topic here in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I thought that was important to give to our viewers. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you why you thought it was important in terms of what's happening with Medicaid to talk to our viewers. Okay?
Yes, sir.
This is Discussion with the Writer Fred. We'll be right back with you with Joe Ibarra.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Hello, this is Cornell with Frost Bank.
Hi there, this is Terry with Frost.
Good evening, this is Franklin.
This is Robert with Frost.
Hello, this is Rosemary with Frost Bank.
Welcome back to Discussion with the Writer Fred right here at Black Video News in San Antonio, Texas, and with my guest, Mr. Joe Ibarra. Joe, let's get into our subject matter, why you think it's important for our viewers to know the information that you're about to share with us. And I think it begins with Trump's freeze on Medicaid and when the COVID first hit, right? And I'll let you take it from there.
Yes, yeah. So at the beginning of COVID in March of 2020, the Trump administration declared a public health emergency. As part of that public health emergency, it ensured that individuals who were on Medicaid would not be kicked off Medicaid, would not be termed. So this affected a lot of pregnant moms at the time and a lot of children. And so it just ensured that these individuals would not have to rerun applications to remain on Medicaid during the public health emergency. We had a lot of teenagers who were 17, 18 at the time who are still on it. When they're 19, 20, even going on 21 right now. Because of the freeze. And so we are still under that same public health emergency. Right now, it's been extended until at least January. We'll know in the middle of next month whether or not it will come to an end in January or be extended until April.
What do you think is going to happen?
It's hard to say. We've been preparing for the end of it since spring of last year. And so we are still preparing for it to end in January, but it could potentially be extended. So it's really hard to say. We'll be ready either way.
So what's going to happen if it ends?
Yes, so as it pertains to Medicaid, the term that's being used right now is called the unwinding of Medicaid. So that will start. So it'll start cleaning up the Medicaid rolls. So
unwinding means getting people off
people off Medicaid who should no longer be on there.
And what's the age limit?
So the age limit is 18 to be on Medicaid. And so like we mentioned, somebody may have been turning 18 in April of 2020. And so in normal times, they would have been, disenrolled from Medicaid, their eligibility run out. But here we are 2 years later, or more than 2 years later, and they're still on Medicaid.
They could be 20, almost 21.
Correct. So those folks will be disenrolled from Medicaid. We have, mothers who were pregnant in March of 2020 who have been able to remain on their pregnancy Medicaid, so they will be disenrolled. So for that population, those who should not be on Medicaid and are going to be disenrolled, we want to make sure that they know where to find Enroll SA, our community coalition. So we can help them potentially enroll into a new plan through the Affordable Care Act, or direct them where to go, whether it's CentroMed, CommuniCare, or perhaps CareLink with UHS. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of those individuals and they know where to find coverage now that they're going to lose it. But what also is potentially going to happen are kids and other individuals who should remain on Medicaid but have outdated applications. They'll start being termed as well if they don't update their applications, or what's called a redetermine their eligibility. And so we want to make sure that we are bringing parents in with their kids to update their applications to ensure that there's no lap in coverage for those children.
So a lot of them don't even know that it might unwind, do they?
So they don't. It's confusing.
Yeah.
And many of them have potentially received letters from Medicaid saying that they've been extended. But part of the problem is people have moved in 2 years.
I was bring that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they move, numbers change, contact information changes. So if the state doesn't have a way to find these individuals, they're going to be termed without giving any notice. And so we want to make sure that the state has proper contact information for these folks, that they have online applications in a system called Your Texas Benefits. We can help them create an application or update it. And then the third is for some of these individuals, not all, we can already update their applications. And so we can just take the guesswork out of it, update their application, and they'll be good to go for the next year.
But the key is they have to contact you, right?
We are here to help, so they don't have to contact us, but they need to make sure that that information is updated. So,
But if let's say I'm 19, I'm out partying, having a good time, living life, and I'm assuming I'm still covered. Then all of a sudden, I find out I'm not. I'm lost. What do I do?
that's where you can contact us.
Okay.
And there's two ways to contact us. One is through our website, enrollsa.com. Somebody can schedule an appointment right there on the website. They don't even need to talk to anybody. Just go there, press a button, enter their information, their phone number, email address, schedule an appointment. It's absolutely free. We can do it in person, face-to-face. We can do it over the phone or via Zoom. If we're talking about a 19-year-old who's partying, you don't even have to get up and come see us. Take it from your living room in your pajamas.
Okay.
We'll help you out and tell you what to do. Okay. Or they can call us at 210-977-7997. Or they can even find us on social media. So
That's a good way.
Say,
yeah, that's a good way because all these young people are on social media.
Yeah, find us on Facebook, Instagram, send us a DM, and we'll just text back and forth.
Okay.
So
now I'm not 19-year-old. I party too much. I got a bad stomach or whatever. So I know I got my Medicaid. So I contact whoever I've dealt with before, and boom, they tell me, you're no longer covered.
yeah.
I panic. And because you watch this show, they now know what to do. They make the telephone call. They come in and see one of your specialists. What does the specialist do with them then?
We're going to see what they qualify for. So they may qualify for something. Unfortunately, there are limited options in Texas, so there may not be any good options for that 19-year-old. But we're going to see. Yes,
Stop right there.
Yes, sir.
No, go ahead and I'll come back to that because I want to keep you free.
So first, we're going to see if they qualify for the Affordable Care Act. Okay. So see if they qualify for a marketplace plan. Now, for an individual to qualify, they have to be working. They have to make at least $13,500 a year to qualify. That could be a lot for a 19-year-old. It's more or less around $12 an hour, working 40 hours a week. So if they do, we can find them some coverage there. If they don't, we make sure that they know about CentroMed and the services we offer. We make sure that they know about CommuniCare and the services they offer, that they know that they can get CareLink through UHS, that they know where to go in case they have issues. They partied too much, or perhaps they were on the basketball court and
broke a leg
or something. Yeah.
What if I'm only working 20 hours a week? Do I still qualify? Well,
we'd have to see. So it really depends. If you're only working 20 hours a week, it really depends on what you're making. If you're making minimum wage, you're probably not going to qualify. So you would fall into what's known as the Medicaid gap. That's between the threshold to qualify for Medicaid and doesn't meet the minimum requirements for the Affordable Care Act. Now, Texas is one of 13 states across the country that has held out from expanding Medicaid. So if Texas would expand Medicaid, it would raise the level for Medicaid to 135% of the federal poverty level, and everyone who falls below there would qualify for Medicaid. So those 19-year-olds, other folks would qualify for Medicaid and have access to health coverage. Everybody after that would qualify for the Affordable Care Act.
We're going to take another break here, but what we do, all you folks out there who won't vote, and keep the same people in office, remember, Texas turned its back on a lot of folks that don't have health insurance. Keep that in mind when you go on November 8th or starting November 14th, October 24th, to vote. We'll be right back with discussions with the writer Fred with Mr. Joe Ibarra.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Welcome back to Discussions with the writer Fred right here at Black Video News in San Antonio, Texas. And remember, we are the voice for the Black community. And I have with me Mr. Joe Ibarra, and we've been discussing very, very pertinent information about the Affordable Care Act. Well, we didn't get too much into that, but that's what we're going to do now. We've been talking about Medicaid and the implications, what will happen if they stop the freeze, which is going to be maybe in January, you said?
Correct. We'll know by the middle of next month if it's going to end in January or be extended until April.
Okay. And you mentioned one of the options those people who are off Medicaid will have is the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So can you talk about that Affordable Care Act?
Yes, so the Affordable Care Act is essentially a marketplace where individuals can shop for coverage who otherwise don't have a way to get covered. And so they're not covered by their employer. They don't have CHIP or Medicaid. They're not in the military, no TRICARE, no Medicare. They're not 65 or older. So these are people who are perhaps self-employed, a lot of barbers, bartenders, service industry folks, people who are contracted, small business employees. They can go into this marketplace and shop for coverage. It is not government insurance. I'm sure you've heard that before. These are private companies: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United Healthcare, Ambetter, Molina here in this area. You can go in, search through hundreds of plans for one that fits you or your family.
And that's Obamacare.
That's Obamacare. And
can they turn you down?
So there are qualifications, and qualifications for subsidies which make it affordable. And so individuals and families who qualify for these subsidies, families making at least 100% of the federal poverty level, that's about $13,500 for a single individual, about $27,000 for a family of four. If you're making at least that much, you're going to qualify for subsidies, which make these plans very affordable. And through the latest Inflation Reduction Act, they made the subsidies even more generous as a part of that act for the next 3 years. 4 out of 5 people are offered plans at $10 or less. Doesn't mean they always take them, but they have that option.
$10?
$10 or less.
A month?
For a premium, yes, sir.
Why have a lot of politicians have argued that it's very expensive?
So this, even though this is the 10th open enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act. And for whatever reason, it remains a very political topic.
It does.
It does. So what we do is we try to stay nonpartisan. These are the options available for us in our community, and we want to make sure that they know what their options are. And we try to essentially leave all that other stuff out of it.
But you have to remain nonpartisan, but you know the disaster that would hit. You know it more than most people because you're dealing in this. If all of a sudden the Republican Party had, this is discussion with the writer Fred speaking now, okay? If the Republican Party had achieved what they tried to, I think, in 2018, to do away with what they wanted to claim Obamacare, that would have been disastrous. So how many folks that you deal with would that have affected?
So in Bexar County, there are over 103,000 of our neighbors that are enrolled into the Affordable Care Act. And so what that would mean for our community here in Bexar County is that's 103 individuals, family members, moms, dads, grandparents, who would no longer have access to health care. Proper health care. What does that mean? You mentioned that they tried to do this in 2018. That would have meant that 100,000 individuals would not have proper health insurance during a pandemic. That would mean that moms would not be able to get screened for breast cancer, that dads would not be able to get screened for prostate cancer. And so the Affordable Care Act has quite literally saved lives and kept families together.
You know what you're saying? It just dawned on me. If all 110,000? 103,000 didn't have any coverage when COVID hit, then they would have had to carry the disease and spread it even more.
Or perhaps we'd have a higher mortality rate
That's
here
what I'm saying,
in Bexar
yeah.
County. And this really affects us all. Because if we're just talking about COVID, if somebody who has COVID is not able to go get treated, they're staying at home. They're getting us sick. Their kids. It affects us.
Right.
When we talk about why there are so many jobs open right now, let's talk about the workforce hit that COVID has taken on the country. Now imagine a higher mortality rate and people that are not, able to do those other jobs and how it affects us.
And the mortality rate is right around 1 million, isn't it, from COVID over the years? I think it's close to 1 million in the entire country. That's a devastating figure. Yeah. So what would be your final comments? You can look right out at our viewers and tell them what they need to know right now as we get closer and closer to maybe winding down the Medicaid coverage.
Yes, sir. So we have two very important dates coming up. So the unwinding of Medicaid. So we want to make sure that you are updating your contact information through Your Texas Benefits. If you don't know how to do that, please find us. You can find us at enrollsa.com. Schedule your appointment from your phone, from your computer. You can call us at 210-977-7997. The other very important date is open enrollment into the Affordable Care Act is starting November 1st. Again, you can go to enrollsa.com and schedule an appointment. Find us on social media, send us a DM, or call that phone number that we mentioned. Your health care depends on you. And if you have any questions, please come see us. We're here to offer this free service to the community. It's what we do, and our entire team has a great passion for it. This is our community, and we just want to make sure that we're all taken care of.
Okay. Well, Joe, I want to thank you for coming in and talking to our viewers about this very important subject. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, sir.
This is a discussion with the writer Fred telling our story, our way.